Hey, let's go.
So to go over the agenda real quick, we'll do a little bit of intros on companion, walk through the technology, and then go into a live demo with this lovely dog Birdie and my colleague Livy. And then we'll have our fireside chat with Dr. Marty Becker, Mike McFarland, and Ken Ramirez, respectively. So to dive right into the overview, if you take nothing else away from this talk, let me say this very directly. We've created a device and a product whose sole desire in life is to enrich your dog and give your dog a better life at home every single day through enrichment, through engagement like games, and practicing things like training, which help build and supplement the human-animal bond. And through those things like training, we can do things like look for very small variants in how your animal moves, grows, holds itself, looks like, with superhuman memory, with superhuman precision that a machine gives us to help your dog look for signs of health variants over time. I couldn't be more proud that we've been working on this for 5 years, working with 1,000+ dogs now at a number of different sites, several under homes, and I couldn't be more proud to be able to start talking about it more publicly.
Can I add one thing?
Please do.
As I have a veterinary colleague, at least one here in the room with me, and we are skeptical scientists. So I tell you, if you're a science-based company, that means a lot. So yes, it's a consumer product that also is going to have professional applications. But I love the fact that you chase the science. And so I was just at UC Davis College of Veterinary Medicine. So Cornell and UC Davis always fight it out which one's the top. But I know you're doing more research there on data analysis and exciting about stuff about body condition scoring. But, you know, I'm a veterinarian. My daughter, Mikkel, who's a co-author of a book of somebody in this room right here, from Fearful to Fear Free, Dr. Lonnie Sun, board of veterinary behaviorist. My wife's a boarded episodist therapist. And I was one of the first people to order a companion. Now, why would I order one, right? Well, I also have pet insurance. That's a whole nother story. As a veterinarian, you think that's off. But one is we give pets the time we could share and the longer we can share the time we can spare. And my wife just fell off her horse. So she has a new puppy, and she's not going to be able to exercise that dog. You have something that never has a better offer come along. It never thinks, I'm showing it today, or I have a deadline or something, right? So stay, train the dog, play, enrichment activities. And the point I wanted to make is I'm okay. I want to be able to monitor different medical aspects of that pet. So there's a lot of consumer stuff comes out that's sizzle, right? And you guys are worried about the steak, if that makes sense. That's not my original term. Everybody said that originally, but
So I want to talk very broadly about why we got excited about Companion initially, kind of the mission and vision of the company. I think that we all share this desire to better understand our dogs. And before today, we barely scratched the surface of what those dogs are already communicating. I know I'm particularly excited to do this work because I think understanding inherently drives empathy. I don't think there's anywhere. And I love the idea of creating more understanding. There's no way that machines don't help us do this with perfect patience, with infinite memory. There's no way that machines don't start helping us, picking up on all these little subtle signs from these animals we love. Essentially, we've created a device that can have a conversation with your animal for hours a day to give it a better life at home. So I think one of the basic premises of Companion is that all animals primarily communicate through movement and posture. So consciously how I gesture, or the dog walking to the door needs to go outside, but there's so much unconscious communication. So how do I hold myself? Do I lean over? Do I flump? Are my facial muscles stressed? How do I favor one side of my body as I go from a sit to a down? There's so much little signal in all of that movement just for humans. Dog, let alone for animals that don't have verbal language, right? What is your dog communicating through its tail position, through its back posture slowly changing over time, through its neck posture slowly changing over time? We are inherently, we love our animals. We love them to death. We couldn't care more about these animals we love, but we don't have the capability, we don't have the education, we don't necessarily have the time to pick up on all these things, right? Machines do, they forget nothing. Like these things will give us superhuman powers. These dogs love it. I talked a little bit about, there's two facts that I think make it inescapable that machines will help us pick up on all these little signals we just described. So fact one is that all animals primarily communicate through movement posture. Fact two is we now have all of these sensors all over the built world that have infinite patience. They have much more precision. And they have perfect memory. They're in your doorbell, they're in your car, they're in your phone, they're in your laptop. They are all over the built world, pushed out by cell phone supply chains, making these components very expensive. So now they're literally all over the world. And if you think about it at a high level, what that means is you now have lots of these warm bodies, lots of animals moving around, sending off signal, things we could read. And now you have all of these sensors all around the world that can much more precisely pick up on all that pattern. There's no future. There's no way in the next 10 to 20 years that all of these sensors, all of these pieces of technology don't help us dramatically deepen and widen our understanding of all these animals. So this is going to happen. I couldn't be more excited about that. Like, there's no way this doesn't. And companion is the first step in that journey. So companion can help your dog live a better life in 3 ways. One is constant, captivating enrichment throughout the day. So the idea is no more leaving your dog lonely, anxious by the door. Instead, you hear your dog from across the house having a blast to the sound of your own voice, practicing the things that make it easier to communicate throughout the day. The second piece is thoughtful, non-anxious, consistent communication, driven by practicing all of the basic training commands that help form and supplement the human-animal bond over time. Our goal with this practice is not only do you really strengthen the training and then hold it there over time. That's fantastic in its own right, but what that allows you to do is live more with your dog. Like, training naturally reduces anxiety in home, but it also means that you are more likely to feel comfortable taking your dog to that new place. You're more comfortable taking your dog to work if you have those commands are more consistent, more fresh, lower latency. And then third, as a result of all of those repetitions, companion has a massive memory of how your dog has moved over time. So how has it responded to sit? How has it changed? How it transitions from sit to down? Where we can pick up the most apparent largest variance or change, or you can pick up on the most subtle instance of something slowly changing your dog's movement that would be almost impossible for you to see. Companion doesn't miss anything. So we can help you find whether it's looking at how your animal moves its limbs over time, whether it's how your animal's body shape changes over time and its body conditions or its weight changes, or in the future thing, actually looking at coat color and a variety of other conditions that are relevant with companion.
So there's 2 points to look at. Ken Ramirez is probably the most iconic trainer. I mean, he's like Alexis Devine, who has Bunny, has done great care stuff. Probably those of you that follow Bunny on TikTok, and we were talking about Ken Ramirez, how we're both such big fans. Everybody's in the training world. Well, not everybody has Ken Ramirez. Now, you can't go to his, not everybody go to his farm, not everybody can. So that perfect training, like with clicker training, can be done with the device. And my daughter, I had heard from Karen Pryor, who found it, has kind of a gift for that, and way more than I do or my wife does. But that's the thing, it's perfect that way. And tell me if I'm wrong. Like number 3, this memory, you're just not comparing our little Pomeranian puppy, Quinby, but against other Pomeranian puppies. So with your artificial intelligence, you build thousands and hundreds of thousands and then millions of Pomeranians that are the same age.
Exactly. So it's not only do you get the benefit of a real-time algorithm looking at, is there kind of variance in what we see right in front of us, but you're also getting over time the benefit of looking at your dog's individual history for its changes within your specific dog compared to other dogs, similar breeds or different breeds. The idea is that with every single dog, the companion gets to see the companion algorithm where it's for. It has the ability to apply a perfect memory and a perfectly consistent set of eyes to look at your dog and look at your dog's patterns. Like a lot of the companion experience isn't just the beautiful device that gets to that, if your dog has a tongue called every day, it's not just the app that helps you with understanding what the device is doing with your dog, how your dog is doing it during the day. There's also a huge component around companion being able to observe your animal and grow with your animal over time and storing all that data in the cloud so that we can call upon that data one day and make sure your pet is in the best health it can be.
Do you know how valuable that's going to be as a veterinarian?
Hopefully alive.
Well, Ani and I, would you love to have that? We don't have that in veterinary medicine. Just think if we could follow along 6-year-old Labrador retrievers, 10-year-old Labrador retrievers to see what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part, that's the diagnostic part that's exciting. The predictable part, prevent problems before they occur if you can.
That's a great segue. So we worked with thousands of dogs. We worked with hundreds of owners, and I couldn't be more proud of who we have around us as friends and advisors and investors. The knowledge that Marnie Becker, that the folks in this room, that Ken Ramirez, that Mike McFarland all represent, and my wonderful colleagues, all of that knowledge goes into each and every session you're not going to. That's one of the benefits. We don't talk about that much on our website, but the perfect consistency, like that each game, each module, each piece of practicing training, all of that knowledge, whether it's fear-free, whether it's positive reinforcement, goes into each and every time the dog engages. So in short, like to kick this off, like the one direct message, which is we're incredibly excited about what Companion can do for all of our dogs, and we invite you to join us. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit and just do a technology overview, a little bit more about the Companion product. And then after that, the next thing we have to talk is our Companion demo. So if we go to the second slide, you'll see a white dog that has some bounding boxes around it. What those bounding boxes are showing is the fact that we now have all of these low-cost AI chips. We have all of this relatively easy to use AI software that allows us to, at superhuman speed, understand what an animal is doing in front of the device, whether it's a motion, a posture. This clip is actually from 3 or 4 years ago, I believe. This is in some of the early days when we were doing relatively simple movements and postures, but this was game changing itself, because what this meant was no longer did a device need to have a connection to cloud computing or have a big delay associated with it, but it meant that now the device could react at superhuman speed. So not a 10th of a second, not a 20th of a second, but you can actually go 30th of a second, 40th of a second, 50th of a second, which is really, really valuable in training or interaction. So that not only could you observe the animal, but you could also respond back in real time. The way I think about it, it's almost having a real-time conversation with an animal. So that whether it's for engagement, whether it's for training, but there's a dialogue back and forth. Before now, we haven't had that ability because we've had almost like it's like having a bad cell phone connection where there's like a second or two delay. It's just not that interesting. It's just so hard to do. But this new technology is what enables us to do it. So this is a clip from 4 or 5 years ago, like in the very early days. And this is, if I remember correctly, a dog named Tank. The first thing we do is just make sure your dog loves the device. So essentially, we encourage the dog to come play with the device by doing like lots of fun games and treats. So your dog learns very quickly the device is friendly and to come over to the device when the light turns on, the machine starts using your voice and the default voice. And then what we do for all of these basic obedience commands is we wait to view all these behaviors that dogs will naturally do. If given enough time, they'll naturally sit down, they'll naturally go all the way down, they'll naturally look at the device. And those are all postures that I just mentioned, but they're also basic training skills, right? That's one is watch, one is down, one is sit. And then as soon as we see that behavior, we capture it. So we instantly reinforce it, superhuman speed and consistency. So that very quickly, your dog learns that every time it performs that behavior, gets rewarded. And using the same training techniques that everyone's familiar with, we associate that caller, that posture, with your own voice, a default voice, or any other signal we might use over time, which you might see like the doorbell ringing, to be able to associate that specific posture with that voice or with that sound. So I think that my colleagues have created the world's most advanced treat cannon, for lack of a better phrase. And I never thought I'd be able to say that. But essentially, this device not only has kind of the AI chip and the software running on board, so a very powerful computer in its own right, but it also has the ability to very consistently, at very low latency, place positive reinforcement, place a treat or a piece of food kibble in a 10-foot triangle in front of the device. What that means is it allows you to issue positive reinforcement very consistently, very quickly, at exactly the right posture to see. And we're pretty proud of it. It's actually designed by some very, very thoughtful mechanical engineers, actually all former Dyson engineers, build very, very high quality consumer products. I couldn't be more proud of the fact that they've created something that's really order of magnitude different than anything else. So what we've found over the years is that the basic training, the practicing of it is really valuable and fantastic. And we notice along the way, though, that people just love the idea of their dog being engaged and enriched at home. As an engineer, I wasn't thinking that initially. It was like, oh my God, of course, if people want their dog to be delighted at home. I was so focused on the technical, like, I can't believe we can train dogs. This is amazing. But there's something really, really fantastic about knowing that there is this helper, there's this being, there's this companion at home whose sole mission it is to engage and enrich your dog, always working. And the ability to use your own voice, ability to use the device, whether you're working from home or away. And actually one of the fun things we noticed, and last year when we were working at home with kind of an early paid user trial, we noticed that the folks at home enjoyed it or used it even more, which was actually counterintuitive. And I think it was the reverse of out of sight, out of mind, but they noticed their dog, whether they were trying to work at their desk, but their dog would always be there looking to play, or they noticed their dog would be anxious in another part of the room. Like, oh, I should start a companion session. And that's exactly what we wanted to have happen, right? Not only can we support you be out of sight, out of mind, because you can schedule sessions to run as you're away from home, constantly engaging your dog. You can also, on an a la carte basis, go into the app and press start. And at the end of the day, as you can see on the screen, these are just fun videos. Like, it's just delightful to see your dog learning, interacting throughout the day. And there's no substitute for that.
You know, since we're at the San Francisco SPCA, I don't know how many times people will hear that I just want to get a dog because it's not fair because I work all the time or I travel. And they don't realize, one, that dogs sleep most of the day. I work at home, so I know that they sleep most of the day. And number two, so that's one thing. But number two, if you know you have something that's a companion, you don't necessarily have to have a pet buddy. Mm-hmm. Although pet buddies, if they do have a pet buddy, they actually live longer and healthier. That's a whole other thing. But they have an additional buddy in this. So you can feel really good about that part, about their learning, they're having enrichment activities, they're moving. Mm-hmm. That's the thing I think I like is it kind of feeds the body and feeds the mind. Like, cool. It's kind of sense in mind.
That's a good way to put it. Okay, cool. And we can go to the next slide. One of the other things that I've really enjoyed being able to start talking about is some of the very early work that we've been doing quietly for the last couple of years with some of the leading health partners in the world that I'm not at liberty to announce most of them right now. But what I can talk about is that we realized we could detect when animals were in pain that pet parents said no, like about 2.5 years ago. And in hindsight, it should have been obvious to us. Like, we knew that this would have health implications and we were really excited about it. But we were starting to see it very, very quickly. And like I said, in hindsight, is somewhat obvious in that we would be working with animals for months. So whether it's with sits and downs, the animal's practicing, and we would notice a variation in how that animal performed that posture. Or the really abrupt one, the first time we noticed it was an animal was doing sits and downs for months and then stopped doing downs one day. We realized, that dog's front shoulders must be in pain. Let's reach out to that parent and make sure the dog is a pain reliever. And then we would see that dog start doing downs again that day. We're like, oh my God, of course we can see this. And I'd say this is almost like a self-diagnostic, the same way that when you turn your key in the car ignition, you see the check engine light pop on. It does that to tell you that it still works. So that if you have an engine problem, that check engine light will come on. Effectively, we're doing that with the dog's body and mind several times a day for 10, 20 minutes at a time to ask your dog to articulate his body, his mind, his joints. And so that we see the subtlest difference of how your dog might position its back, its neck, how your dog might take slightly longer to find the treat because they primarily use sense of hearing at first. We've noticed where some dogs start to lose their sense of hearing. We hope to, at some point, be able to look at subtle variants in animals' appetite, so be able to pick it up very carefully over time. But in the near term, the things that we've actually shown are the things we're most excited about, if you do think they'll make hopefully a huge impact in terms of clinician tools, are one, being able to look at how an animal moves. So what's called gait variance or gait. So specifically looking for variance there because it might help us pick up on osteoarthritis. It might help us pick up on other issues. And then two is what we refer to as BCS, for body condition score. So specifically being able to see if an animal might be underweight, might be overweight. And this is exciting not only on an absolute basis, because there's majority, I think 50%, if I'm not mistaken, of animals.
Actually, I wrote a book called Fitness Unleashed. It's about 65%. It's almost identical to the human obesity rate.
And it's not an aesthetics. It has a huge health impact. In my understanding from people smarter than me on the animal health side, is that it has a massive impact to animals towards end of life. It will really lengthen or shortens lifespan.
I think fat cats and chubby dogs are kind of funny in cartoons, but in real life, they're like little tubby time bombs taking away their health. It's not just joint issues. It's related to heart issues and kidney issues and all sorts of things. The thing I think is interesting is osteoarthritis or joint issues is both underdiagnosed and undertreated dramatically. So for the ones we see, and a lot of people think, oh, that's just getting old, and they don't realize that there's things you can do, especially if you catch it early on before you see a lot of joint damage. But there's no way that machine is not going to be able to detect things even before a board of veterinary orthopedists. Well, because of just that perfect learning. So you'll see variances in gait. I joke sometimes that I'm not a very good veterinarian. My wife gets mad at me, but it's the truth. I mean, some veterinarians are very skilled. If you look at equine veterinarians or canine veterinarians, to noticing gait abnormalities, but that is a special skill. And if you've got something and you notice in your dog that's the gait has changed, that is going to be a game changer, because then you can look at the therapeutic joint diets. You can look at the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. There's new things coming out with recombinant DNA and stuff for pets, but it's certainly no substitute for the veterinarian. But typically, most people see the veterinarian once a year, and at the maximum, you're in at the veterinarian in 15 minutes. Yep. That's the maximum. Probably more like 5 minutes, because the veterinary nurse and stuff is in there. So it's going to give us kind of, and put it a different way, eyes and ears, right? Somebody's home all the time.
Yeah. So I'm joined here with a number of really fun colleagues, specifically my colleague Libby, who is one of our managers of animal behavior, along with her dog, Bertie, who's going to demonstrate the device for us today. What we're trying to do here is what I call a triple black diamond. We have a young, recent mother of a dog, who is this wonderful dog named Bertie, who just had a litter, who's traveled across the country from Kentucky to help perform a demonstration. I can't wait to see her perform, and I'll turn it over to Libby.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So this is Birdie, and she has been working with Companion for a little while now, but has had quite a few months break as she's been taking maternity leave. But what we're going to show you is actually one of our more advanced games with Companion. This game is called Simon Says. And what it is doing, it's teaching her how to listen for the specific cues. So just like the children's game, it's going to say Simon Says, and then the thing it wants her to do. So I'm going to just go ahead and get this session started, and we will see if she wants to play with Companion. Let's play Simon Says.
Looks like it.
So it starts off with a couple tweets to let her know that the game is starting, just because we want to make it really clear when that session is beginning and when it's ending. And so you can see she's into this. She likes to catch the treats in the air. Simon says, sit. Yes. There we go. And she is also a dog who likes to offer behaviors before Companion asks. And that's actually a really great thing, because what we then are able to do is we are able to reinforce it, but also pair the cue continually. Simon says, dead. There you go. And so now she's being patient and she is waiting. I will say that right now, there we go. It can teach things like duration as well. So we can teach that sit, stay, that down, stay, and things like that. So we really want to work on teaching patience. And with all of this, you can see she is very focused on Companion. She's eating those treats and then keeps coming back. Says, sit. There we go. And she's waiting and she's, yes, there we go, seeing if she has done the correct behavior. And this is really hard for a dog because as most trainers and behaviorists know, as humans, we're giving those dogs all of these sorts of cues. We're looking a certain way. Our hands are moving a certain way when we are asking for a cue. But Companion just says that verbal cue. Yes. And so that was perfect. So she offered that down behavior, not quite right. And so she really had to use those, listening ears and try and figure out, okay, what was I supposed to do there? And Companion rewarded her when she did do the correct behavior. Sit.
Yes.
Perfect. And then I'm going to end this session.
Oh, then training session canceled.
So there, I ended the session. Birdie is a little bummed. So at the end of the session, it does say all done to give the dog that message that, hey, the session is over and you can go take a nap. You can see that she was a little bummed, but she has also since wandered off because she knows what that cue is. And that way they know when a session is starting, when a session is ending, and we're really focused on teaching them all those verbal cues as we go along.
For the avoidance of doubt, to confirm, all of that engagement, all that computer vision, all that AI was done on the device in field. That's one of our new manufacturing units. That's a device running at either close to superhuman speeds or superhuman speeds in terms of recognizing the posture, the movement, even in an alien environment like this office space, which was very different from a normal living room and a home, with a dog that's had relatively dark fur in a challenging environment. To understand what that dog's doing in real time, take a look at a couple frames, both before and after, to see if it's appropriate to reward them based on the behavior, and then engaging automatically with the animal without the support of any other systems around. One of the nice things to highlight there is it's just one camera on the device. It's one sensor. It's everything built in. And the only thing going into the device right now is the power cord. Cool. Well done, Birdie. Well done, Libby. Do we have any questions from the audience? Wailani has a question.
Is that sound when the treat gets is that always that loud?
It's not. That's a pre-production model that has no sound baffling in it, so it's pretty loud.
Okay.
So the really nice thing about these units is we've designed what we think is the world's most advanced treat cannon, like I said, because it's infinitely adjustable in power. If we have time, actually, we can show you maybe outside the video conference, but when we first start working with animals, we can lower the device, both the shot distance and the volume, almost to imperceptible, so that the treat just barely escapes the mouth, and it's like little subtleties go up and up and up as you desensitize the animal to the device. It's also in the same way, that's what we hope to do with things like noise desensitization for other noises in the future, whether it's the sound of truck brakes, whether it's the sound of squealing. The idea of being able to play those noises louder and louder and louder over time while watching for anxiety and cancer conditioning, super fun. And to go back to the directly answer your question, I think that was almost full launch distance for pretty accurate. So it's a pre-production model. So that's the model that's about to go to the factory. Yep.
John is an animal lover and a very mediocre trainer. Tell me, and I'm sorry if you covered this already, but tell me about how I would, if I brought Lemmy up here, he's never seen it, I just back off and let the machine do its thing. I don't have to. Tell me about what I would do first time my dog came out.
Oh, I love that. Lippy, would you like to answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a whole acclimation process. So it's an automated acclimation process, and it starts with just desensitizing them to those noises. So it starts at a level that we can hardly hear at all, to let them know, this is just kind of a sound that happens, and gradually increase it without any stress. So it doesn't launch any treats at that stage. It's purely just mimicking the sounds that companion makes. And then once they are completely confident and comfortable with that, and they've been thoroughly desensitized, then we start with the counter conditioning.
And the camera's watching them to know.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. So we can make sure, hey, are they around? And what we actually look for is if they are in what we call the field of view, so can we see them? And if they choose to leave, then that lets us know, hey, let's go back a couple steps. Let's make sure that we are really making this as low stress as possible. And then we start to pair those treats with it once they have been desensitized to the audio sounds of it. Yeah.
So I really don't have to do anything.
Nope.
They get out of the way.
Exactly. And just watch them and basically give them moral support. And just watch them kind of learn to think on their own and how to interact independently.
So we always recommend, as Libby implied with that response, that's a great question. We always, all of this is opt-in. So for the animal. So it's all like, we have to earn the trust of the animal. We have to be excited enough for the animal to come running across the house when the device turns on. And we always, our protocol, what we recommend is we always want to make sure that the animal perceives it has a way to leave the room, to leave the environment where the device is, which is really important to us. And that's part of, honestly, a lot of our effort was working with hundreds of dogs, and with what Libby just called acclimation. We also call it more commonly kind of meet and greet or having fun. But the first couple of days of companion are just about having fun, just about getting used to the device. If you'd like to join, we'd love to have you in the room, but we can do it. We can do all the heavy lifting for you if you'd like. I think one of, no, I think I'll leave it there. That's a good question.
Okay.
What's that?
You might come twice.
That's okay. Do we have any other audience questions? Shoot.
Yeah. I think it has some really interesting potential for helping like challenging behaviors, right? Like a dog who is maybe sound sensitive to like other dogs barking in the environment. Like, is there something already or will there be something built in where maybe the companion recognize a dog bark and then start rapid fire retreats?
Oh, you're getting ahead of us.
I think that would be so brilliant.
Brilliant minds think alike.
Yeah.
We have not made any announcements on this front, but we can't help. We can't wait to start talking more about some of the more advanced features that we'd love to launch. They're really nice on birdie. Oh, yeah. The nice thing about the device is we already updated the device over the year for all the units in the field. So we are constantly adding new protocols. We're constantly adding new modules. And we're lucky to actually, we met a number of our advisors through some people in this room that feed the world of us, specifically folks like Sasha Protopova, who pioneered a way to do anti-bark. I believe she called it anti-bark through positive reinforcement, but essentially using positive reinforcement for longer periods of silence, which takes the patience of the same, which takes advantage of exactly what a computer or machine really good at. And the technology is already out there. And it's not something we would have to pioneer in order to do really good bark detection using the same AI technology. So this device is superhuman. It essentially has the computing power like an iPhone in terms of both AI and regular compute. So we have relatively very high confidence that this device will be able to smartly recognize those noises, which are really key in order to helping with those type of problems.
Cool.
Okay. Great question.
When is your price point going to be at launch?
Cool. So what we were being a little coy, but essentially we want people to think about it as 2 dog walks a month. So if for a $49 reservation, I think now, so we've been offering them for the last 3 or 4 days, and I think the schedule's filled up now. So the next ones you can receive or get are, I think it's May 2024, which is super exciting. I couldn't be more appreciative and support everyone. But it's $49 to reserve one today, and that means that guarantees you, or at least will make best efforts to achieve May 2024 to receive your unit. And then after that, it's very similar to all the other smart hardware out there, like a Tonal or Peloton or something like that, where what you're getting is the device, the software that comes with it, including the consumer app, which we haven't demonstrated here today, but happy to, we'll bust that online. In addition to all of the cloud computing, all of the storage and the cloud computing we do outside of your device to ensure that we're tracking how your animal moves over time. We're updating how to interact with your animal. Essentially, what you're really getting is not just a companion at home, not just an ability to interact with that companion. Essentially, for the early users, you're also getting coach support. So someone actually helping you make sure that your animal's having a great time with you would be, in addition to receiving a service that's out there that's constantly engaging, you're constantly looking at how can we give your dog better life.
The first one is
$49 long.
okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
John,
Yes.
this morning I was just thinking of something about dogs that have dental problems.
Yeah.
So often they'll take the food in their mouth and then drop it.
Yeah.
And then, or they'll come up with something and what they can see wanting to engage with that, but because it hurts, so they have that, they may be salivating or excited to do it, but they don't eat because of dental issues. Have you ever thought about that? Why is that be something really early? Because before bad breath or something, they can't tell you that this hurts on this side, right? It's pretty interesting how this thing evolves to diagnose dental issues as well.
I couldn't agree more. So we hope to earn the right to get to that level of sophistication, but all of the basic features are there in this hardware already. In the sense that it is a behavior shaping device and superhuman quickness and superhuman consistency. So you can imagine there's a world in which you're able to shape the behavior of coming closer to the device. So the camera has more resolution on the animal's front. You can imagine shaping the behavior for occasionally being able to spend a large amount of time in front of the device. You can pick up infrequent behaviors, or you can watch for very small things around a specific part of the animal's body. we have not had the time to even start looking at those things, but I'm so excited. I can't wait. And it's also that kind of hits at one of the other things that I'm really excited about, which is right now we're only using these behavior shaping protocols to train what are commonly known as kind of basic obedience commands, but sit, stay down, recall, watch, all of those, and duration stays, which are really, really valuable for lots of reasons. We could be more proud of that. We haven't even begun to open the door on shaping behaviors that might be purely valuable from an animal health standpoint. Like from the very fun and like kind of out there, like animal yoga, or to the very, very tactical, like if you want to see how an animal's moving a certain part of its body when it's post-op 2 weeks in the animal's home, can you train or shape the behavior where the animal articulates that part of the body to flex that one specific part a clinician wants to look at? Like we would love to earn the right. We would love to earn the reputation or the right of being an extension of kind of a tool to be used in a consumer's home where the pet is actually most comfortable. And I think there's so many possibilities there, but those are all things that we have not had the time to get to yet, but see a pretty quick path to in the future.
All done.